du ser. Yes! Yes!
Det lå i lufta.
Men Erling Braut Haaland.
Vi får han servert.
What a game. What an atmosphere. What a night to be Norwegian. A round of 32 match against Ivory Coast, played in the Dallas humidity, was decided in the 86th minute by the left foot of Erling Haaland. And in Oslo, a city that had been queuing since mid-morning, painting, crocheting, playing cards, and wearing Viking horns in 30-degree heat, finally had the moment 88 years had denied them. Norway arrived at this match already on a high. Days earlier, they had beaten Senegal 3-2 in the group stage, a result that announced plainly that this team was not here to make up the numbers. Haaland had scored. The nation had believed. Then came France. And Norway did something that invited scrutiny. They rested players, key names, starters, the spine of the team. The calculation was cold. A group stage finale against the defending world champions, and Norway treated it like a chess move rather than a statement. The questions came quickly. Was this arrogance, naivety? Had they sacrificed momentum for fresh legs? And would the gamble backfire the moment knockout football arrived? Against Ivory Coast, the answer arrived. When the match swung into its hardest moments, when Ivory Coast dominated the opening 15 minutes, when Diallo equalized in the 74th, when 88 years of history pressed down, Norway's legs did not buckle. The press stayed sharp into the final minutes. The runs kept coming. And in the 86th minute, when Patrick Berg found Sonderberg on the right wing, Berg had enough left in his tank to deliver the cross. The gamble had paid. The rest had mattered. And waiting on the other side of this one, if Norway could survive it, was Brazil, a 5-time world champion. The most feared name in the sport. A team Norway had famously beaten once before, in Marseille in 1998, on a Kjetil Rekdal penalty that still echoes through Norwegian football. But that was a group stage match. It did not send Norway through. Italy did 4 days later, in the opposite direction. If Norway wanted a quarterfinal, they would have to earn it against Ivory Coast first. And for the first 39 minutes, they did not look capable. Hours before kickoff, the queues had already begun forming in Oslo. By mid-morning, fans had staked their positions outside Spikersuppa, in football jerseys, in Viking costumes, draped in Norwegian flags. Some brought decks of cards, others painting supplies, crochet work, knitting needles. The line grew steadily through the afternoon, down Karl Johans Gate, a river of red, white, and blue. At Sukkerbeiten, the bar manager estimated 3,000 half-liters of beer would be sold that evening. The atmosphere was approaching a 17th of May register. The doors to the public viewing area opened at 3. The tables filled instantly. A country was treating a Tuesday like a national holiday, and the match had not yet started. Ivory Coast arrived as a defensive fortress. 2 goals conceded across 270 minutes of group stage football. Sebastian Haller leading the line. A midfield built to absorb pressure and strike on the counter. They had never played a World Cup knockout match before. 3 consecutive group stage exits between 2010 and 2018 had seen to that, but they were not here to make up the numbers. Norway arrived as one of the tournament's most dangerous attacking sides. 8 goals in the group stage. 14 big chances, more than any team at the World Cup. Erling Haaland had scored in all 3 group games. Martin Odegaard was pulling the strings. And yet, for the first 15 minutes in Dallas, none of that was visible. Ivory Coast dominated the opening stretch. Their wingers pinned Norway's fullbacks deep. The Norwegian midfield could not hold the ball. Every clearance landed at Ivorian feet. The pattern was established early and it held. Ivory Coast would control the game, and Norway would have to survive the storm. In Oslo, the nerves were physical. Fans sat frozen, hands pressed to their faces. At Ullevål Stadion, where thousands had gathered to watch on the big screen, the silence was heavy, the kind that only comes when a country is collectively holding its breath. Then, in the 39th minute, the pattern broke. Antonio Nusa received the ball on the left edge of the penalty area. He had been quiet until that moment, a peripheral figure in a game that was passing Norway by. But when the space opened, he did not hesitate. He cut inside, shaped his body, and curled the ball into the far corner. Against the run of play, against the statistics, against every trend the match had established over its first 39 minutes. At Ullevål, everyone rose. A sea of scarves lifted overhead, wave after wave. The tension that had gripped Oslo for hours broke, just before halftime, into something resembling belief. They could have killed it before the break. Haaland had a chance. Sorloth had a chance. Both went begging. The 1-0 lead held, but it did not feel secure. It never does in knockout football, and it especially does not when a country has never survived one. The second half began exactly as the first had. Ivory Coast with the ball, Norway defending deep, absorbing. 9 shots, 3 on target. The pressure was building, wave after wave. And then, in the 56th minute, Torbjorn Hegem rose to meet a corner and sent his header towards the far post. Amad Diallo, a second-half substitute, cleared it off the line. Inches from 2-0. Inches from safety. Inches from history. 18 minutes later, Diallo was not clearing the ball. He was scoring it. A give and go with Nicolas Pepe. A left-footed strike. The net rippled. 1-1. At Ullevål, the crowd tried to start a cheer. It died in their throats. The Norwegian cold shower. Suddenly, 88 years of history pressed down on the Norwegian players like a weight they could feel in their legs. The fear was not abstract. It was specific. It was the fear of a country that had never, not once, advanced past this stage. What happens next is what separates teams that break from teams that bend. In the 86th minute, Patrick Berg picked up the ball in midfield. He found Sander Berg on the right wing. Berg looked up and delivered a cross that traveled through the Dallas humidity like it was on a wire. And at the far post, Erling Haaland, the man who had scored in every group game, the man whose father sat in the stands, the man who carries the weight of a nation's footballing identity on his shoulders, tapped it in with his left foot. In Dallas, the Norwegian bench emptied onto the pitch. Odegaard fell to his knees. Haaland's father, Alf Inge, a former player himself, was shown on the broadcast in tears. In Oslo, the city dissolved. At Spikersuppa, the crowd erupted, screaming, hugging, singing, beer flying into the air, nobody caring. At Sukkerbeiten, the 3,000 half-liters became irrelevant. Down Karl Johans Gate, the queues that had started in the morning, the fans who had painted and crocheted and played cards for hours just to be here, they had their moment. They had the thing 88 years had denied them. The final whistle confirmed what the 86th minute had already decided. Norway 2, Ivory Coast 1. Norway's first ever World Cup knockout victory. After the match, Odegaard called it the pinnacle of his career. A player who has captained Arsenal in the Premier League, who has led his country through qualification campaigns and group stage heartbreaks, said this single victory mattered more than all of it. That is what it means to carry 88 years and then, finally, to set them down. Norway now faces Brazil in the round of 16, a team they famously beat 2-1 in the 1998 group stage, a 5-time world champion, the most feared name in the sport. That victory in Marseille, with Kjetil Rekdal's penalty and Egil Olsen's tactics, remains one of the greatest upsets in Norwegian football history. But it was not a knockout match. It did not send Norway through to the quarterfinals. Italy did, 4 days later, in the opposite direction. On paper, this is where the journey ends, but paper has been wrong before. It was wrong in the 39th minute when Nusa curled a ball the statistics said he should not score. It was wrong in the 86th minute when Haaland arrived at the far post exactly when his country needed him most. It was wrong in Marseille in 1998 when Rekdal buried a penalty against the world's most feared side. And it was wrong on a Tuesday morning in Oslo when thousands of Norwegians decided the wait was worth it before a single ball had been kicked. Norway is no longer a country that cannot win a knockout match. Norway is a country that just did. And Brazil, for all its history, now has to reckon with a team that has spent 88 years waiting for exactly this moment, and a nation that has spent every one of those years believing this day would come. If you want more stories like this one, subscribe and follow along for every match.